Well, good morning. I can't tell you how delighted that Marianne and I are to be here. This is an unbelievable city. It's a great state. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. I want to say congratulations for what you're doing today. The leadership stance that you're making, just by your presence here, saying that you care, just simple concern and kindness for one another, your family, your community, your country means so much. Means so much. You know, I was asked to come here and present and talk about what motivated us as an organization, as somebody in leadership who truly is just paid to win baseball games. See, in professional sports, it's a bottom line business. You either win or you don't. As long as you have players that can produce and you win baseball games, does it really matter what happens when players are kicked off the boat, so to speak, and have to transition into everyday life the way you and I and most people grow up? And I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but I want to talk about just some leadership principles that perhaps will help you understand why we believe this is so important. Kind of give you a view into our heart, into our mind, and why we believe what we believe and why we think what we think. A little bit about me. You know, I can't recall a day in my life where I haven't thought or dreamt about baseball. My family were all farmers from western Kansas. My father was a mechanic. And I assumed, you know, that's probably what I was going to do. And then about when I was 10 or 11 years old, I was in the garage with my father, as I was most Saturday mornings. And I was helping him kind of repair an engine and tinker around a little bit. And about 30 minutes into this Saturday morning, my father looked at me and he said, hey, son, can you go in the house and see if your mother needs something? And so what he was telling me was, you got no chance of being a mechanic. And so I learned to clean, I learned to dust, I learned to iron, and then from that point in time, my baseball passion began to accelerate. See, my mother loved baseball, my grandmother loved baseball. We shared a commonality, especially my grandmother and I, because of the Kansas City Royals, which was my boyhood team. And of course, the Royals were a very easy team to root for back in the 70s and the 80s because they were a model organization. Well, things had changed during my time and my journey in baseball. As Pamela mentioned, I started coaching in college. My career was cut short simply because of a lack of talent. I wasn't injured. I just couldn't play anymore. I wasn't good enough. So I got into coaching. And I loved the fact that you could do life with 25, 30 players and just go through life together, share each other's stories, and share each other's dreams of making it big in baseball. And so I began to coach in college, and then later the Atlanta Braves called and said, look, we want you to come and scout for us. We want you to join our organization. I originally said no. See, my father had always told me, work every job you have like it's the last job that you'll have. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to stay in coaching. And then people were persistent. So I decided to do it, and I was going to do it for 4 years and get back into college coaching. Because again, I wanted to teach. I wanted to just help people navigate through life and help grow young people into men. That was the seed that was inside of me. And then after several opportunities, simply letting the needs of the organization guide my path, I had opportunities to do different roles within the Atlanta Braves, ultimately becoming the assistant GM of player personnel. And then the Royals called. And the Royals said, look, we want you to come to Kansas City. We want you to be the general manager. Now, the Royals hadn't been to a playoff game, and it only had one winning season since 1985. And so everybody I sought counsel from, all of my mentors, just like each and every one of you do, when you have to make an important decision, you reach out to those people who have earned the right to speak into your life and give you wisdom and help you make a decision. Well, I did that. And you know what they said? They said, don't go to Kansas City. They said, you can't win. They said, the economics of the game has changed. The owner's not going to spend any money. There's no prospects in the system. And the person that I sought counsel from the most looked me right in the eye and they said, Dayton, if you go to Kansas City, it's a professional graveyard. So us, I guess not being too smart, we came to Kansas City. We wanted to do something special. See, that seed had been planted many years ago. We wanted to lead. We wanted to stand up for what we felt was right. People said you couldn't win. You know what? We were going to go and plant that seed in a culture and in an environment where hopefully we could use our expertise and our passion for baseball and a platform to simply try to do good and impact our culture. And I got to tell you, after being in Kansas City for 2 to 3 months with my wife, Mary Ann, and our 3 children, Ashley, Avery, and Robert, we bought too big of a house, and I was 100% sure, with all of my DNA, that we had definitely made the wrong decision. We couldn't win in Kansas City. So what did we do? We simply went to work, how we could grow the game of baseball in our community, how we could reach in all aspects of our community, help the needy, help those that are neglected, help those that are disadvantaged, and use our platform to simply grow the game and connect with people. Isn't that what it's all about? And so we simply went to work. And we've been rewarded for it. Not because we are the smartest people in the game. Not because we work harder than anybody else. We believe, it's simply we care. We got to care more than anybody else on the planet about what we do and what we're passionate about. Simple kindness and concern for others and for what you do. And that's how we went to work each and every day. See, we haven't been attached to the outcome, winning a World Series, that we were defeated in the daily process. Just delighting in where you are, giving your best effort each and every day, no matter how you feel, or what the obstacles are, or what the media says. You just give your best each and every day and use your platform to help others. October 16, 2014. If you follow our team, you may remember we had just won 8 straight games, a major league record in the playoffs. We're going to the World Series for the first time in 29 years. And what I said to our team was simply this. I said, boys, congratulations. You're going to a World Series. We're proud of you. But let me tell you what we're most proud of. We're most proud that you did it the right way. See, when the media was starting to come out against you and fans were starting to boo you, you didn't lash out. You came together. You went and played this game with innocence, just like when you were a little boy. But what you did that I celebrate more than anything else is simply this. And this is what we're all doing together. I said, boys, you understood that many years ago, players paved the way for you to set in these lockers. They played the game so well. They connected with the fans so deeply that people wanted to come to the ballpark. That gave you your opportunity. And you understood that. And because of the way you played and the way you connected with people, you have now ensured that we have a new generation of fans in our community and in our region that are going to follow our team. Isn't that what we're doing? People have paved the way for us to be here today. Don't we have a responsibility and obligation to never grow tired or weary in doing what is right? Scripture tells us that. That's why we're here. That's why we leave Arizona. That's why we speak out to the things that are important. See, the baseball culture, that clubhouse, is a living, breathing organism. Players aren't assets. They're not commodities. They're people. The struggles that they deal in the clubhouse are the same struggles that people deal with in our neighborhoods, in our towns, in our cities, and in our country and around the world. So I signed on. I signed on to be the general manager of the team. That means that I'm the leader, one of the leaders, an important part, because the leaders shape the culture. And so why do we address issues like this? 27 years in professional baseball, 5 years as a college coach. Every major issue that we've dealt with, when we sit down with players and we trace it back to the issues that they're having and why that relationship with another person is not going well, or why it is dysfunctional, why it gets abusive, it's traced back to pornography. It's traced back to a feeling. It's traced back to an illusion of what a relationship ought to be about between a man and another woman. And so when we continue to look the other way, it's not going to get better. What you permit, you promote. What you fail to confront, you condone. I don't sleep at night when we don't confront the issues that are hurting our team, our family, our community. I get an opportunity to speak in prisons. I really enjoy that. Scared to death the first time I went. But after doing it, it was the most rewarding day of my life. People say, why do you do that? Well, I'm not a professional speaker. I don't have great wisdom and information, but we simply care. And 97% of those inmates are going to be back in our communities. They're going to be back living amongst us with your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren someday. And when you're walking from one end of the courtyard to another in Lansing Correctional Facility 2.5 years ago, and this young 19-year-old boy comes up to you, and he says, "Hey, Mr. Moore, when I get out of here, you think I can come work for the Royals?" Well, maybe. We're always looking for good people. Beautiful boy. Looked like Michael Jackson back in the Jackson 5 days, if you're tracking with me, back in those days, right? Beautiful boy. Come to find out he was a star athlete. Not surprising. He looked the part. But I said, "Son, what are you in here for?" He looked at me and he said, I raped a girl when I was 15. I said, "Wow." I said, "When did you first see pornography?" He said, 12 years old. A light went on. Dealing with players. In the last couple of years, an incident we have. One player wasn't a part of our organization at the time. Decides he's going to film his buddy, who's married with 3 kids, having an inappropriate relationship with another girl. He comes to me crying and weeping about it, tells me he's addicted to pornography. We're going to continue to look the other way and not take a stand? So I said to him, I said, how come you didn't have the courage to confront? He said, well, see, I'm addicted myself. My heart breaks. So I don't want to talk to you today in a judgmental way. Chuck Swindoll, a great Bible teacher, says we're most like beasts when we kill. We're most like men when we judge. We're most like God when we forgive. And I want to speak in the spirit of hope, in the spirit of love, in the spirit of unity. I know when I was in my early 20s, seeing pornography, it gave me a distorted view of what a thriving, intimate relationship ought to look like and feel. It's important. It's crucial. And by the way, back in biblical times, they didn't get it right either. Let's not beat ourselves up as a community and a society like there is no hope. No, there's a lot of hope. There's more hope for this next generation than any generation in the history of our country. I believe that. There's more information out there. There's more people that care. There's more people that want to make a difference. A little over 18 months ago, knowing this is an issue in professional sports, we can only control what we do with the Royals. Leadership position. Can't condone it. Got to confront it. We reached out to a group here locally called Fight the New Drug. About 18 months ago, I called Sterling Crockett, my friend, explained what we were going through. After the encouragement of Lamar Hunt Jr., part of the ownership that owns the Kansas City Chiefs, and we began to talk about the science of what's happening. We all know the emotional toll. Regardless of what faith walk that you have. And yes, I do believe it is a moral issue. But there's science out there that tells us that it's destroying our kids. It's hurting their thought process. See, what we put into our mind is what we become. And I'm not going to get into the science of it. There's so many more people here today more prepared to talk about that than me. You know, the three things that I think are really, really important in leadership is you have to be able to apply moral principles in your life. When your giftedness, your talent, takes you further than your character can sustain it, you will shipwreck. The highways are littered with people with great talent, great potential that didn't make it because of the choices that they made. That's why this is important. There's nobody you've ever worked with or been a part of where their personal life doesn't leak into their professional life. Young people gathered here today, understand the choices that you make, the people that you hang with. They're either adding to your life or they're destroying your life. There's no in between. You have to make good choices. We buried a player 2 years ago, Giordano Ventura, because of choices. When your giftedness, your talent, takes you further than your character can sustain it, you will shipwreck. In Giordano's case, it got him kicked right off the planet. We got to make good choices. We have to apply moral principles in our life. We have to embrace diversity. The strongest leaders understand they're strong because of the strength of others. They understand that we're different by design. Yes, different races, different cultures coming together. But it's the scars of others. It's your stories. It's what you've been through. It's the challenges that you've had, the adversity that you're dealing with and have had to overcome. Bring them to the table. We have to discuss them. To me, that's what diversity is truly about. We're all different by design. Embrace it. There's no two people that are dealing with the exact same thing, the exact same way, because of the exact same reasons. Learn from one another. So important. Don't judge one another. There's two things I've learned in this journey, 13 years of being a general manager. There's two things that I've learned more than anything else. It's cemented in my heart. One, I got to forgive every single day. There's always somebody looking at you with a critical eye and a critical spirit. Thank God for those people that are looking at us with a critical eye. They help us uncover blind spots. They shape us and mold us. So important to have people like that that can speak truth into your life. And that there's people looking at you with a critical spirit. Those are oftentimes the people on Twitter when we come out against pornography and the harmful effects on our young people. And ESPN decides they're going to take shots. That's critical spirit. When Sports Illustrated decides they're going to write an article, that's critical spirit. When USA Today decides they're going to kind of attack a little bit, try to appease the masses, that's critical spirit. I'm going to let that go. I've learned to give that away. My faith allows me to do that, to forgive daily. I'm reminded those 12 people that walked with Jesus for 3.5 years. They saw all the miracles. They broke bread with him. They touched him. They had communion together. What'd they do? They betrayed him, and he forgave them. So I'm going to forgive, a conscious choice to forgive daily. So important to renew every day, to not stay wounded, regardless of what happens. Forgive others, forgive myself, and move on. And don't stay beaten. Yesterday doesn't matter. Delight in where you are today. The second thing is I can't quit. I can't quit. As I mentioned before, I can't recall a day in my life where I haven't dreamt or thought about the game of baseball. But I can honestly tell you, I thought about quitting. I thought about quitting a lot. And when I trace it back to why I feel burnt out, why I'm getting discouraged, often it goes back to that forgiveness piece, or there's a dispute that I need to settle. There's something I need to make right. I need to humble myself. I need to give something away. I got to let revenge die. Got to forgive every day, and you can't quit. The final thing I'm going to say, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm getting to the finish line. The best leaders, the most successful people, they know how to compete. And you can say, well, that's an obvious thing. Like, you don't reach the top of your profession unless you have a desire to compete. Most coaches will tell you what they want in their players is that desire and that ability to compete. In fact, it was Vince Lombardi, the great Green Bay Packer football coach. He said, winning isn't everything. He said, what? He said, it's the only thing. He said, winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. I'm not sure about that. See, I think it's winning for each other that isn't everything. It's the only thing. Winning for each other isn't everything. It is the only thing. We've got to want to win for each other. if we're going to continually beat the best of the best, if we're going to reach our ceiling as a community and as a family and as a country, we got to compete for one another. And see, the world tells us all the same lie. You've been told it, I've been told it, every generation before us has been told this lie. It's simply this. You better look out for you. Get all you can while you can. It's about number one. You got a small window of opportunity. You better get yours. Fulfill self. It's about you feeling good. It's not about that at all. The very best leaders, the people that are most successful, the people that fight through adversity, they do two things really, really well. They take their circumstances, whatever event, whatever challenge, they embrace it as if it's the best thing to ever happen to them in their life. And they're able to do that because they put others first. They understand that leadership begins and ends with putting others first. You moms out there sacrificing, working 2 jobs, single moms, you know what that's about. You men out there trying to provide for your family and to love your wife the way Christ loved the church, you know what that's about. It's about putting others first. Don't buy into the lie it's about self. And so today, as you go out into your breakout sessions and you listen to some of the very best experts in their field, be prepared. Understand the importance of this opportunity to gather this information, to be able to go back and serve your community, as Pamela said, to reach out to at least 10. What do you want your community to look like? What do you want your future generations to look like? What do you want this country to be? Whatever you want it to be, start living it. You want generosity? Be generous. You want kindness? Be kind. What type of example are we setting? What type of example am I setting? Because that's what the future is going to look like. And there's great hope. The fact that we're all coming together for something that we're passionate about. Because the passion of the leaders in this room, that becomes the priority of our communities and our families. And so I challenge all of us today, together, to delight in one another, to delight in this day, use it as a platform to go out into our communities, live that example, take that information, engage, and don't ever grow tired or weary in doing what is right and good work. God bless you. Thank you for being here.